Welcome to the Rick Fuller Podcast, presented by Rick Fuller, the team leader of the Rick Fuller team, which serves the San Francisco Bay Area and Sacramento County. Rick and his team have 1,000 five-star online reviews and have been honored as a distinguished small business by the California State Senate and Assembly. Rick is a community leader, national real estate coach, and real estate investing expert. I'm Christina Morales, a writer and marketer, and Rick is my dear friend and my mentor. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into analyzing the real estate market. So 2020, it's brought us lots of challenges due to COVID-19. We've had sheltering in place, an increase in demand and a weak supply in the market, the pause of live open houses, and so many more challenges. So how will these changes impact the market into 2021, and what can we do to ensure success in an otherwise tumultuous world? So Rick, I can't think of anyone better to answer these hard questions than you. So let's get started. How has 2020 altered the way you and your team do business?
Well, Christina, first off, thank you for all of the work that you do hosting these podcasts. You and I do a podcast once a week. We've done, I think we're probably rounding over 100 videos or podcasts or interviews that we've done with various people in 2020, and really just trying to wrestle with these dynamics. And it's given us a great pulse on what's happening in the market. And I'm really super excited about this because in this particular webinar, we are speaking to the real estate agent. Like, I am speaking to my fellow agents, the agents in our board and our community across the country, even North America. We'll have people watch this from coast to coast, from border to border, and even into Canada. And I really want to emphasize that likely the number one question that you're receiving as a real estate agent is, how's the market? How's the market? If you're a stockbroker, they're asking you, how's the stock market? Right. If you're a real estate agent, if you're a real estate broker, if you're a realtor, they're asking you, how's the real estate market? And how you respond to this, when you open your mouth, whatever comes out shows the depth of your understanding. When you say it's good, or you respond and say it's bad, or it's different, or it's unique, and I think people can read right through that. So this is designed to give you exactly what to say, so you have a clarity and a pulse, and you will stand head and shoulders above your competitor when you have these insights. So it's going to be great. I want to tell you that I'm going to talk a lot about what's happening in Northern California, because we have offices in the San Francisco Bay Area and Sacramento County. But do not stop watching this webinar if you're in Florida, if you're in Michigan, if you're in Texas. I know all of you are watching. Listen, stay tuned, because let me tell you what happens in the real estate world. What happens on the coast, okay, we're talking the East Coast and the West Coast, it almost creates this ripple effect or tsunami into the middle of the country. We're about an hour from Silicon Valley, so some of the tech things that we're experiencing, you are going to experience. Some of the challenges that we're seeing in the market today that haven't yet reached the Midwest, haven't yet reached even parts of the East Coast, they are coming, and we will help you get ahead of it. So what happens on the coast permeates, this tsunami carries until the rest of the country is experiencing the same thing. So it doesn't matter where you're from in the industry, like, watch this. This is going to be a leading indicator. It's a lead measure. It's a leading indicator of what's to come in your community. Ken Blanchard wrote a book called Who Moved My Cheese? The simple premise is this. In markets, in industries, opportunities are moved. The market shifts. If you're not prepared for that shift, you go back where the cheese no longer exists. We're going to help you identify, because we're typically on the cutting edge here in the San Francisco Bay Area and Silicon Valley market, even in Sacramento, some of our offices in Sacramento. And so we know that that's going to permeate throughout the Midwest, and you're going to be ahead of it by watching this video. So let's go to our slides, Christina. We've got a lot of them. Friends, buckle up your seatbelt, because I am going to cover them quickly. I am a numbers geek. If you know me and you're listening to this, you're like, this dude loves pie charts. He loves bar graphs. I'm a numbers guy, but I realized I got to move quick through them so that I can cover a lot. So let's talk about what you can, let's talk about what happened in 2020.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to get into the political aspects. I'm not going to even get into the COVID-19. I really want to stay on point, on tune with the real estate market. I've got your attention. I want to make sure that you come away with great insights. So when somebody asks you, how's the market, you can speak intelligently and you shine head and shoulders above the rest. Real estate is really simple. When people think of real estate, do they think of you? How you respond to how's the market begins to build that credibility or tear it down. So let's look at what happened in 2020 from a real estate in review perspective. First off, remember this, we used to do these things, they're archaic now, called open houses. Who would have ever expected open houses would go away? They've been a staple in the industry for decades, maybe even over a century. They've been a staple in our industry of open houses. And now as you drive by on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, 1 to 4, you don't see open houses in your community. And they've gone to virtual open houses, virtual showings, even virtual caravan tours. I see a guy in Tennessee right now, and he's arranging a van, and he does this all professionally, and he videos these properties, and he creates this virtual caravan. You can literally go with him. He uses some advanced technology, so it kind of has a speed timing that creates kind of this image where you can kind of see where they're going. Then he slows down in certain aspects. Very, very powerful. So the world has shifted from open houses to virtual open house. How about this one? Government regulations. Wow, I can remember in April and May, we were doing these same podcasts, Christina, you and I, and we were talking about how the government had put mandates on real estate. At first, remember, it was non-essential. And I was like, I couldn't believe it, because if there's, I don't know of anything more essential than your home like that. And people are relocating, and these government regulations have impacted real estate. Today, real estate is deemed essential. Today, these restrictions, many of them are minimized or lifted, or we even have a cadence, like our offices are often working remotely. We've got a better understanding to these things, like showing property and how we show them, being COVID compliance with gloves, or we show them using hand sanitizer. We use, we're managing how many people come into the property. But these government regulations in 2020 really have impacted the market. Look at this, record low mortgage rates. Wow. I cannot believe at the end of 2020, we are still talking about record low interest rates. These were supposed to bounce back 3-4 years ago, back to 5, 6, 7%. I just saw the other day that the average interest rate for a mortgage is in the 3% range. Wow, that is what I like to call the fuel to our fire, which we'll talk more about later on. And then, of course, the number one indicator, the number one factor affecting real estate right now, it is simply our inventory. We do not have enough homes. We do not have enough homes for sale. And even the inventory is impacting the demand. How is that so? Well, people can't even find a property. There's 20, 25 offers on your median priced home in your community, and we can't get those properties in contract fast enough. And so right now we simply do not have enough inventory. And a big part of that, Christina, is because for the last 15 years, maybe the last 12 years, builders have not built enough homes. This self-imposed moratorium after the 2008, 2009 crash, we have not seen builders return to the level of construction to meet the population growth. Right now, our average buyer is 34 years old. It's very difficult to find an available property. They're moving quick, and all of that is due to just simply there's not enough homes for sale. Some of our markets here in the Bay Area in Sacramento County, we have about 100,000 people that live in the market, and you could see every one of the homes for sale in a weekend.
Wow.
For 100,000 people that live in a community, and you could see the 40 or 50 homes available for sale in those markets over the course of the weekend. We simply do not have enough homes for sale. And that is the number one driver of our market today, causing prices to rise significantly.
You said the average age was 34?
Yes, our average age of our buyers today in the San Francisco Bay Area and actually around throughout the state of California is 34 years old is our average buyer.
I just wanted to say that I'm above average, so I was just going to thank you.
Of course, you are above average, which I agree.
But anyway,
it's interesting. We go back 34 years ago. Like, what was happening 34 years ago? It's a little bit. I'm a little older than that, but 34 years ago we had a baby boom. We had a small baby boom 35, 34, and 33 years ago. And so we're seeing more buyers out of the market because the average age of a buyer is 34. And 34 years ago, there were more babies born. There was a small baby boom that occurred for 3 to 5 years. And now we're seeing that demand hit the market with the median age of 34 years old.
Interesting.
And so when the market shifted, Christina, we've been tracking the real estate market in the Bay Area and Sacramento County for the last 15 years. And I typically do it on a monthly basis. And I rely on resources like the California Association of Realtors. When the market shifted with COVID back in March and April, we knew we could not rely on stats that were only available once a month, at the end of the month usually, and not till 2 weeks after. So it was like the middle of the following month, the stats would be available for the previous month. We couldn't be dependent on that. We couldn't run a business off of that data. And so you'll notice here on the chart that Christina is sharing with you, we began tracking every one of our markets, every one of our cities, not on a monthly basis, but on a weekly basis. And we're looking at the red represents the demand for real estate continuing to climb. The blue represents active properties. It's a snapshot in time. One moment, we've evaluated how many homes there are for sale. You can see the city of Antioch, which has a population of nearly 120,000 people, 74 homes available for sale. You can see every one of those homes over the course of a weekend. That's condos, townhomes, single family homes, all of those over very few. And you'll notice that the red line represents we've continued to see a demand, and the blue line says we've continued to see less and less and less and less inventory. The yellow or the gold represents our solds and how many properties are actually selling. And so we began monitoring, keeping a pulse on the market on a weekly basis. And since this actual image, we've continued every single week up till present, and we've seen greater demand for real estate and even less supply. Now that blue line is down to 45 homes available for sale in the city of Antioch, the second biggest home in Contra Costa County, second biggest city in Contra Costa County, and you've only got 45 properties, and that's a big part of what is fueling the market. So what is California Association of Realtors? You're going to see a lot of slides that have these images. This is powerful. You're going to see that the California Association of Realtors forecast report card. In 2019, you'll see actual, then you'll see the 2020 forecast. Forecast is what they have and what they're projecting, if you will. And then you'll actually see the 2020 projected, what they've actually ran the stats, ran the numbers, and what they're believing we're going to come in. You're going to find out they were pretty close. The 2019 actual, 398,000 homes that have been sold. And in 2020, 393,000. For 2 months of our year, Christina, when we were unplugged, the months of April and the months of May, when all those restrictions were taking place, pretty remarkable. Where are we likely to end up? Right around 380,000. When they drafted that forecast, they did not have the insights of COVID-19, even that COVID-19 was going to exist. And you'll notice that the median price point in 2019 was 592,000. It was forecasted for 607. Watch this. 2020, the median price of a California home State of California, $640,000.
That's so
It
crazy.
has climbed 8.1%. Unbelievable. And if we notice the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, it was at 3.9 in 2019. Now it was forecasted to be at 3.7. The fuel has been added to the fire, and now we're seeing 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 3.2% is the average fixed rate mortgage. And what that's causing is we're continuing to see low housing affordability. And that's a big challenge. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. In other words, only 32% of Californians can afford to buy a home today. So we're only seeing 1 in 3 California homeowners, Californians, that can afford to buy property. And that continued to put pressure on our market. So I've talked about interest rates. Look at this. And I talk to people and they'll say, Rick, my first home, I had an interest rate of 12% or 8%. For my wife, Jennifer, and I, it was 7.25%. We thought we got a steal of an interest rate. Today, we're seeing interest rates in the low 3s, sometimes in the high 2s. I've seen mortgage rates as low as 2.25% on a 15-year mortgage. And I've seen 30-year mortgages at 2.5% on an ongoing basis. Unbelievable how low these interest rates are. I was listening to the Fed chairman, and the current Fed chairman made a wild projection. And in a statement, he had made a comment that they plan to keep the Fed rate, the Fed fund rate, between 0 and 0.25 or 0.25%, and they plan to keep it that way till 2023.
Wow.
The Fed rate has an indirect effect on the mortgage rate. It has an impact on the mortgage rate, and it has an indirect impact. And so we're likely to see low interest rates throughout 2021 and even into 2022. And we're probably even going to see these low interest rates into 2023. Internally, I'm laughing because I can remember 3-4 years ago, economists would say, there's no way these low interest rates are going to last. You'd hear commercials on the radio or on TV, refinance now before the boom is gone. And here we are at the end of 2020 with interest rates in the high 2s and low 3s, adding massive fuel to our real estate market. So let's go to the second big indicator. I've talked about the fuel that's being added to the fire with low interest rates, but look at what has happened with our active listings. Okay, this is the home. These are for sale signs in your community. They're for sale signs on in your neighborhood, on your street. These are active listings. And we go back some time ago, we go back to 2015, a pretty sizable inventory. Then in the end of 2015, inventory began to decline. It picked back up in 2018. And now look at it, inventory is down 50%. There's only 50% of the houses on the market year over year change, down 50%. So we just don't have enough inventory. You'll learn later on that for every buyer, there's for every 3 buyers, there's only 1 for sale sign. No wonder we're seeing 5, 7, 10, 15 offers on a property when it's well priced and placed on the market. And so we're down 50%, and as of July 2020, year over year change on the amount of homes for sale. And it goes back to when I was looking at that Antioch market that we talked about, which is just one of our 5 locations. We look back at that market, when you took that snapshot a month ago as we were preparing for this conversation, we had 77 homes for sale. Now we have 45 homes for sale. And so we continue to see a reduction of inventory. You know, I hear a lot of economists and they use all variable factors, and they talk about jobs, and they talk about what's happening in the stock market, the bond market, and it's all related, and it's all impacts the real estate market. But I have found one economic principle that supersedes them all, and it's really simple. it's supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
What you see here is we have a strong demand for real estate, no supply.
Mm.
So if that's the case, where are people moving to? Now, here's an interesting factor. More sellers continue to move out of California. Now, if we were together in a room, and Christina, you've been with me as I've presented these slides and
Mm-hmm.
this type of information, I'll usually ask, how many people know somebody who have moved out of the Bay Area to Sacramento, to Roseville, Folsom, Elk Grove, El Dorado Hills? Almost everyone in the room holds up their hand. Then I ask a follow-up question and say, how many people here know somebody who's moved out of state? And their other hand lifts.
Right.
Most
Both my hands
people
are
know,
up.
you know it.
Yeah.
And so do I. And we know people that have moved from urban areas, San Francisco, into suburban areas. You're going to hear a lot about that. We know people that have moved from San Francisco to the Sacramento or greater Sacramento area. They're moving to Roseville. They're moving to Folsom. Wow, Christina, you and I have seen a ton of people move out of state.
True.
And a massive number of people, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Texas, Tennessee. We were in Nashville, Tennessee last year, and they said on average 300 families move to Tennessee per day. Per day, they're moving to Tennessee around the Nashville area.
Wow.
Unbelievable influx. A lot of people moving to Texas, a lot of people moving even to Florida. We're seeing more sellers continue to move out of California, highest since 2005. In the last 15 years, we have never seen this number of people move out of their county and out of their state. And both are occurring at massive numbers today in the San Francisco Bay Area. And if you're on this, if you're listening to this webinar, you're like, that's really interesting, Rick, for the dynamics of your market. I'm on the East Coast, I'm in the Midwest, I'm the northern, western states, whatever. I'm in the Northeast. That's where they're moving to. That's where they're moving to. This is very much relevant to you. That's where your next home buyer is coming from. Your home purchaser is coming from California. They're coming from the Bay Area, and they are making a transition from a very urban environment to a very suburban environment. And they're doing that in other counties and other states. And this is we've never seen this number of people make this transition since 2005.
Is it because of affordability, or is it because there is no inventory in California?
I think it's several things. One of it, and we're going to actually show you on, I think it's the next slide, Christine, if we have that. Oh, look at this.
Perfect.
Why are people, what a great transition you gave me. Let's look at it. Why are people making that move? Number one reason, and this is moving out of their county. Okay, and usually what they're doing is they're moving from a very urban environment, San Francisco based, maybe Oakland, San Jose, and they're moving to the suburban communities. And then the number one reason, and this is the first time this has occurred, Christina, I've been watching these stats my entire career. I've been doing this now as a real estate broker. I've been in the industry nearly for 18 years. The first time I have ever seen quality of life at the top. It is always housing affordability. It's what you said just a few moments ago. People are moving because it's housing affordable. Yes, they are. But for the first time in my career, I have seen the quality of life, how they would determine the quality of life in an urban environment to be less desirable than what it is in a suburban environment. And we're talking a variety of factors. That might be schools, that might be parks, that might be transportation. I'll tell you, I think one of the big impacts, if you think about COVID-19, people can work from home. So I can either rent a flat in San Francisco for $3,500 to $4,000 a month, or I can come out to Sacramento, Elk Grove, Richmond, Concord, Antioch, any of our markets, and I can buy a house. I'll even get a backyard and 3 bedrooms and 2 baths for about the equivalent amount that I was paying on a monthly basis for that house. You combine that with low interest rates, It's why we're seeing so many people make the great migration from these urban areas to the suburban communities. A lot of people are moving closer to family and friends. You know, we raised our hands. How many people here know somebody who moved out of the county? How many people know somebody who moved out of the state? Like, we all raise both of our hands, our family, our friends. When they move, people follow. And so we're seeing that become a significant factor. Second homes, we look at Airbnb, VRBO, home away. These were options that didn't exist 3 to 5 years ago. And if they did, they weren't matured in that community. Now you can have a second home. You and I have done several podcasts just on Airbnb, also known as vacation rental properties. A lot of people are moving for a job change. Maybe they got furloughed or laid off, and now it's time for a job change. A shorter commute to work or school. We're seeing a lot of that. Ability to work from home. I will tell you, next year when we look at that, that number, that one right there, is going to be driven to the top because of so many people that said, why am I living in the city? Why am I living in this urban area when I'm now working 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, or every day from home? In the community that we're in, Christina, unless you're an essential business, all office employees are required to work remotely. There isn't an option to say, I want to have some of our employees to work from. If you're not what they deem non-essential or non-infrastructure, all employees work from home. And I think it's even makes good business sense today to say, if people want to work from home that are essential and are critical infrastructure, you have a limited amount of team members or no team members in your office, and they are working from home. And so I expect as we do this same event next year, we're going to see that one right at the top. So that's why they're making the move.
That's amazing.
So here's some interesting facts about the affordability. And you'll notice that California, we've highlighted with the blue, 33% represents, this is as of 2020 in Q2, the percentage of people that are able to purchase a median priced home, a median priced. And so you can find that in the United States, we look to the far left, you will notice that 57% of Americans can purchase a median priced home. In California, one of the reasons they're making the relocation, they're making that great migration that we always talk about, is because that number is not 57% in California, it's 33%. And if we take some of the markets that you and I are in and we look at the San Francisco market, 17% of the people can afford to buy the median priced home. I'm looking at Contra Costa, right around 34, 35% of the people that can buy in Contra Costa County. San Diego, very popular destination, less than 1 in 3 people. And that is creating mobility, that is creating migration from those well-populated areas. There's over 1 million people that live in San Diego only, specifically, and they're making the relocation to communities that are more affordable.
It's amazing because even where people are moving to, half the population still can't afford it, like Placer County and Sacramento County. It still is not affordable.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. But if you can afford, if you could afford here in the Bay Area, a condo or townhome, you can afford a 3 or 4 bedroom home in Sacramento or Elk Grove. That's how it really impacts.
Yeah.
If you can afford a 3 or 4 bedroom, 15 to 1,800 square foot home in the Sacramento, even Solano County, then when you move to Idaho, you move to Texas, you're able to buy a 3,000 or 3,500 square foot home. And so it's not just the affordability, like, hey, I'm out of the market because it's not affordable, but it's also the ability to obtain what they're looking for becomes greater and more available when we look at markets that are more affordable. And so you're absolutely right. And then you have some community, and you look at the county of Lassen or Kings County, even San Bernardino, Amador County, Yuba County, Shasta County. Those are still relatively affordable. Those are many of those that I just referenced, other than San Diego, but Amador, Yuba, even Shasta, considered Northern California, Fresno, Kern County, Sutter County, Stanislaus, Calaveras, Merced. These are generally Northern California counties that are more affordable than the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm. Great point.
Okay, so what about that affordability thing that we keep talking about? And you'll notice this is a percent of first-time buyers who change counties because of housing affordability. We go back to 2014, 26%, 1 in 4 first-time home buyers were changing counties because of the housing being unaffordable. Today, it's nearly 37%. Now, some good news with the decline of interest rates, we have seen less buyers that are transitioning out of our counties as a result of that. We saw 49% 2018, 2019, we saw 48%. This year, 37% of first-time buyers change counties because of housing affordability. And so this has continued to be one of the factors. 1 in 3, arguably, maybe even 1 in 4 buyers are making a move outside of the county that they currently reside in into another county, like that Sacramento region that we always talk about, the greater Sacramento area, as a result of housing affordability.
Do you think this number would be higher if we didn't have 2 months of complete shutdown? Like, transactions couldn't be coordinated. So do you think that number would actually be higher?
Oh, I absolutely do. And I think what's happening now is that if you think about why people migrated to urban environments, why did they do that 15, 20 years ago, maybe 25, even 30 years ago? That's where their employer was.
Right.
That's where their employment was. And so then you have things like a BART train, Bay Area Rapid Transit. You've got Muni. You've got various buses, all designed, ferries. Now today, it'd probably be more Uber, Lyft. You've got several tolls that you might be passing through in order to get to your employment. Today with COVID, it's fundamentally changing the real estate market because people are able to work from home. And now they don't need to take the ferry or the Muni or the BART train or to travel over various bridges to get to their place of employment, because a lot of people are now working from home. Now, I read a stat that only 1 in 5 office employees have returned back to work. That means that 4 out of 5, or 80% of office employees, are working from home. That's a significant change over the course of 12 months. It's going to be very interesting, Christina, when we look at what happens to these office buildings. What happens to these commercial buildings as a result of, well, much of their staff? Do they need 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 square feet of office space? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the long run.
There you go. Make it into residential living, of course. There's not enough.
Well, that might be one of the solutions. You know, you look at some of the local malls are getting picked up by fulfillment and distribution centers. You know, you and I did an entire podcast on how that's, you know, that one sector or one industry appears to be dying when it comes to brick and mortar, and another one is growing rapidly. You have retail that's struggling to stay alive in a physical capacity, especially right now. And you have Amazon distribution centers that are picking up malls and changing the malls. And so as one sector changes, another one emerges. So here's a great statistic, and it kind of talks about what I always share with you is like, where are people moving? And so we look at it, and this is from San Francisco, San Mateo, and this is net domestic migration. And this is over the total. It's a cumulative total from 2018 to 2010, and it chooses the top 10 destinations. Look at what's happened in the East Bay. A massive number of people, core Bay Area residents, are moving to cheaper counties, 76,431. A massive number, by far the greatest. number. And if we were to incorporate even the San Francisco Bay Area into this, as a whole, that number would be significantly larger. Most of our offices are located in the East Bay, so we watch that very closely. We see a lot of people moving out for all the reasons we've mentioned earlier: quality of life, housing affordability, work from home, families moved out of the area. And so it's really creating a mass, a great migration from one community to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So where are they going? Well, look at Nevada. This is a net migration. This is from Sacramento, where they're moving. Look at Nevada. Very, very popular. People moving to Nevada. People moving to Idaho, Oregon, Colorado, even San Luis Obispo, Sutter and Yuba counties. Oklahoma's popular. Utah, Arizona, Washington. This is the net domestic migration. Why people are moving. This is from the Sacramento region into where they're leaving the state.
So Bay Area people are moving to Sacramento, and Sacramento people are moving to Nevada, Idaho, and Oregon, correct?
That's about what, wow. And I think you could add a few others on this list. This is a cumulative total. Anecdotally, I'll tell you what we're hearing people, a lot of people moving to Nashville, a lot of people moving to Tennessee, a lot of people moving to Florida, a lot of people moving to Texas. I think if we go back and we look at this slide in a year from now, we'll see these three communities really. Nevada is very popular, especially around the Henderson and that area of Nevada. So a lot of people are making this great migration, and the migration's occurring in the Bay, and they're moving from the Bay to Sacramento, and from Sacramento, they're moving eastbound, which was in some sense a little bit of an irony, because if you remember, and you, Christina, if my memory serves correctly, you're a former high school history teacher or a history teacher.
Yep.
And so if you remember, we read those books about the Dust Bowl and the Great Migration, and where did they move from? Oklahoma, Oregon, Idaho, Colorado, and where did they, Utah, and where did they go? They didn't go east, they went west for the gold rush. And the irony is that we've kind of made a U-turn as a society, and now we're moving to these areas outside of, we're moving east.
Interesting.
So we're down to just a couple more slides I wanted to share with you. So what are various financial sectors, financial industries, financial institutions, like what are they thinking is going to happen in 2021? Let's kind of shift our focus to where the market's going to go. And I've got Bank of the West, Fannie Mae, Mortgage Bankers Association, the National Association of Realtors, UCLA, Wells Fargo, a variety of different sectors, different financial institutions, some educational, some trade organizations, associations, even some banks. And look at the similarity of their projected forecast for the economy, GDP, the gross domestic product. Look at what they're all in alignment. 3 to 4.6% growth is anticipated into 2021. In years past, when we've done these state of the markets, I never see them agree. One thinks the market's going to appreciate, they think the economy is going to improve. The next one thinks the market's going to drop and depreciate. And they all have their logic and reasons. I have never seen such consistency or even similarity in projections or forecasts of what's likely to happen to the economy. And they all believe that the economy is going to grow.
Wow.
So what about California? Where is it going to go? Well, in 2020, we've mentioned the projected is that we're going to sell about 398,000 houses, 398,000. In 2021, they are expecting that to explode. More houses to sell. The number of homes are going to sell, and they're going to climb by 3.3%, and that's a big number, to nearly 412,000 homes, single family resale. This isn't even considering our new construction.
Okay.
But to me, that's not nearly as surprising as where the median price is projected to go. We go back to 2015, you notice that the median price was 476,000, and they are anticipating finishing 2020, the year of COVID, the year of shelter in place, the year of government mandates, the year of the election, at $661,000 will be the median price home in the state of California. What's fascinating to me about that is that amongst all of the different sectors of all the different industry, real estate, both from an employment perspective and also owning it, because we believe that if you're in the real estate business, you ought to be an investor. We even wrote a book, you know, Christina, on the 4 R's, what we call the millionaire, the the 4 R's of a millionaire real estate agent's financial plan. And they're anticipating, forecasting that in 2021, we're going to see a median price of $690,000, nearly up 4.5%. Since this was published, Lawrence Yun, chief economist of the National Association of Realtors, is now saying we don't think it's going to be at 4.4% increase. We're thinking it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10% annualized appreciation. So they've moved that from 4.4 to 5 to 10%, where they think home values will end up at the end of 2021. But with that happening and home values getting higher and wages not keeping up, we're seeing the affordability index continue to decline. Only 31% of people can afford to buy a home. And finally, we're anticipating another year of fantastic interest rates. Less interest going to the bank and more of your payment going to principal balance, enabling you to be able to buy a property or buy a little bit more of a home because of low interest rates. And this year at 2020, we're likely to finish at 3.2%, average 30-year fixed. We're likely to see it be even lower in 2020, forecasted at 3.1%. That is shocking. It has remained low for a very long time. Look at it, since 2015, we've hovered in the 3s and 4s as low interest rates. If you haven't refinanced your house yet, boy, you've had plenty of time to do it. You better get on it, because these rates will not last forever. And we are anticipating another great year, low interest rates, fueling home values and even fueling home sales.
And you mentioned housing affordability, but income is not increasing at the rate of housing. So that's going to cause more complications too.
Well, Christina, and it's why we see the housing affordability continue to drop.
Yeah.
Now we go back to 2018. We saw even wages were lower, and it was only 28% of the people that could afford to buy a house. Today it's at 31%, so that's a slight improvement. But frankly, 31% of our neighbors, our family, our friends that live in the state of California, only 31% of them can afford to buy a house. That means the vast majority, nearly 69% of people, cannot afford to buy a median price home. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on the real estate market to find solutions. And, you know, I'm thinking now, Christina, just talking out loud, we ought to do an entire webinar and podcast. And if you're watching this podcast and you agree with what I'm about to say, I'd love to hear you kind of chime in and let us know, send us a message, comment below in the feed. But I think we ought to do an entire call on how to create housing affordability, because I think that's going to continue to be a major focus for the state of California. So we put it all together. Let me give you 3 things as a real estate professional that you ought to take into consideration. And I'm going to tell you, they're probably the 3 great things that you ought to be doing in 2021. And then Christina is going to share with you a bunch of free tools that we have. They're absolutely free. There's no strings attached on giving you the resources to them. So here's number 1. Number 1, you've heard us talk a lot about suburban. People are moving from urban to suburban. You want to be in a place as a real estate professional to help them with that migration. When you help that family, provide them the kind of experience they're excited to tell a friend about. Remember, nobody ever forgets their last move. They remember when they moved. They remember the moving truck. They remember eating pizza on boxes. They remember the last move. Nobody ever forgets that. When you do a great job and you provide them a great service, the kind of service that they're excited to tell a friend about, They'll tell other people about it. And as they do, you'll have more and more business. So help people move, help families move from these urban areas to suburban. Provide them the tools and resources, and we'll show you some things that we have for you to help you do that. Number two, connect with your sphere of influence. Call them. Call the people, email them, text them, check in on them. And I'm asking you to do that not from a realtor perspective or a real estate agent, or real estate broker, or small business. Do it from a human perspective. Connect with people. Mm-hmm. People are struggling today. Shelter in place has been very, very difficult on a lot of people in our community. Small businesses are suffering. So reach out to them. It's a great opportunity just to connect and be a human being and connect with people. How are you doing? How can I help you? And even if the term real estate never comes up, that's okay. Connect with them, provide them some help. Maybe they need some toilet paper, paper towels delivered, drop them off. Maybe they need a meal train, put it together. Connect with people. That's number two. There's never been a better opportunity to do that. The doors are wide open. People want to talk to you. People can't see you in person. Do a Zoom call with them. Pick up the phone, send them a text, give them an email, and connect with them. We took several months and called everybody in my sphere of influence. And we have a database of nearly 8,000 people. Wow. And we called them all and just said, hey, we're not selling anything. How are you? How can we help? What can we do to serve you? And we spent several weeks or even months making those calls and just saying, we care. Mm-hmm. Be a human being and reach out. That's the second one. And number three, you as a real estate professional, you be the local economist. Do not leave this up to Fox News. Don't leave it up to CNN or MSNBC. Don't leave it up to the Wall Street Journal. You be the local economist. You know what's happening in your market. You know what's happening in your community. You know what's happening on your street or in your condo complex or your townhome community. You know what's happening, and you harness that voice that you have. There is a vacuum. People want to know, with COVID, how has this impacted my home value? With COVID, how has this impacted my equity? With COVID, what can I expect on my rental property, my vacation home, my commercial building, my house, my primary residence, which is now their college education or retirement funds? Connect with them, and you be the local economist. Mm-hmm. And if you're the local economist, when they think of real estate, they will think of you and make that connection. So 3 things to take away that we want to make action items. We'll give you some tools to do that here in just a minute. Help people move from urban environments to suburban. Help people connect with people, be a human being, connect with them, connect with your sphere of influence. And you take the role of the local economist in the minds of those that are your family and friends. They'll be grateful for it. And if I'll close with this quote. It's from one of my mentors from afar, Zig Ziglar, who said, Christina, if we help enough people get what they want in life, you'll always have what you want in life.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Rick. That's awesome. And one thing that you did amazing is you don't look at obstacles, you look at opportunities. And so these are some great resources that you've created this year during COVID to help your team, and you're generous enough to share these resources with anyone watching this. And so you can look at, let's see. So Rick talked about the California Great Migration, how people are moving from the Bay Area up to Sacramento and Placer County. And so Rick, you mentioned going from urban to suburban. And so this is a great resource that you have. And your Top Agent magazine covers there. So congratulations for being featured on that.
I noticed I'm wearing the same shirt, Christina.
Well, I know what to get you for a Christmas present then.
Maybe a new shirt.
Maybe a new shirt. So if you're wondering about the California Great Migration, or if you have any clients that are thinking about moving to Sacramento, go to this website. We have a ton of cities in Sac County there, and we have blogs, we have school reviews. There's a ton of information. We even have an ebook on there that you can share with your clients, and it will say the benefits of moving up there. And there's a lot of different neighborhoods, and so you can connect them with the one that best suits their needs. And then we also have our Rick's Pros site. So Rick mentioned a lot of people are leaving Sacramento to move out of state, or they're moving from the Bay Area to out of state. Well, Rick, you and your team have connections all across the county. You're part of some great coaching groups. And so we know realtors in Colorado, Florida, Indiana, and more. And so we're building up this resource for our agents on our team to help connect their clients with reputable agents that we would trust. And so these are completely vetted. We're asking questions that only agents know to ask. And then you can send your top 3 agents to your clients, and they can have a great experience in moving. So we can help them on this end, and then we'll find some great agents to help them on the other side of the transaction. And then Rick, you also mentioned to be the local economist. And so you have your Rick Fuller podcast. We do this every Friday at 2. We have over 30 episodes just on the podcast. We have over 425 downloads. We also have our YouTube channel, which I didn't put on here, but that is an excellent resource too. You have, I don't even know, hundreds of videos and great information, and we're always updating it. So stay abreast of what's going on in the market through COVID 2021. This is an excellent resource. And then we also have our Facebook group, Agents Thrive and Investors Thrive. We put all of the latest reports and county mandates, things like that. Those are always on Agents Thrive. It's a great way to connect with other top agents. And finally, because of this webinar, we created a new webpage called Rick's Market Update, ricksmarketupdate.com. And today I will put this presentation and all of our slides on there. So it's a great way to, if you're not sure what we said, or you're like, hey, I want to see that slide again. I want to show my clients the slide. I want them to see what's going on. Rick always says, what do you say? Show and tell, don't share and tell. Yeah.
That share, yeah, show and share. Stop telling and selling.
Yes.
Right? Because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and there's a credibility that comes, especially for that DISC personality profile, that SC. They don't want to hear what you're saying; they want to see what you're saying. So share and show rather than tell and sell.
Perfect. Yeah, so go on our site, you can see our slides, and there's also great resources there about how to optimize your online presence. If you're a solo agent and you're like, I want to be a part of the Rick Fuller team, we have great resources, support, encouragement, lots of fun, the best people you're ever going to meet. So you can learn more about our team there. And so, yeah, go to rickfuller.com to learn all about the team and all about what Rick offers, but you can also go to ricksmarketupdate.com to learn more about what we talked about today. So that's all the time we have today, Rick. Can you believe it went by so fast?
I know it sure does. I could talk about those graphs or charts for forever, but I think we covered it in a clear, succinct way in a very short amount of time. I hope this was valuable to a lot of people. When somebody asks you, how's the market? You now have the substance. You can speak intelligently about what's happened and what's to come, all based on this market report. So we hope that it works out well for you and for all of your real estate conversations.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Rick, for always sharing your wisdom, your research, your innovation. You're very generous with all of those. So thank you so much. And thank you for a year of amazing podcasts and YouTube videos to help us survive, pivot, and thrive. So everyone, thank you for joining us. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Bye.
Bye-bye.